reading, I explained how to do that. How you can flush to winterize the engine for a short period of time. Suppose that you have an engine that is running with raw water all the time, salt water. And you want to leave the engine off for 2 weeks. You can do exactly like you said in this way. Let's go 1 second and I show with the camera. Suppose that this engine normally is running with salt water. Okay. And I want to let the engine off for a month, 2 months. This is my strainer and this is the seawater. I am going to open the strainer. I am going to introduce the water, the municipal water, and I am going to prepare 1 gallon of coolant. And I am going to start the engine with the seacock valve closed. In other words, I am going to replace with this, and I am going to control here the amount of water to keep the engine running with water and to keep the filter full of water. I open, I close, I open, I close. The engine is running, but right now it's running with fresh water. And suddenly I start to close this one and added coolant, and it's running with the water and coolant. And suddenly I eliminate this one and I added coolant. When my gallon finished, I stop the engine. And right now, the engine internally is full of coolant. I let the engine off for 2 months. I put in back the cap. I close this, and next day, in 2 months, I start the engine again. The engine throw away the coolant and continue with salt water again. You know? Properties of the coolant. Number 1, corrosion protection. That's the number 1. Freezing point a little lower. Boiling point a little higher. Anti-scale. Protection for acidity. That's very important. Anti-foam. What is the meaning of that? Anti-foam. Avoid the formation of bubbles. Anti-dispersant protection. That's great. Those are in general the properties of the coolant. Okay. Not all the engines they have a bracket to install a coolant filter. You can do that. You can install a bracket, cut the lines, and install the bracket to install a coolant filter. Why is important install a coolant filter? Because you can keep the coolant without solid particles flowing through the coolant. Those solid particles damage the thermostat, and one day the thermostat don't close or is extended. No, this is very, very important. And also, because you want to install the bracket for the filter, you need to install valves in both sides of the bracket. And now with those valves, you can do service, and you don't need to drain the coolant completely. You remove any hose and you have 20 millions of gallons on the bilge. And coolant is oily. Clean the bilge is not easy. You remove the coolant and you pass a rag, and the next day, and it's not good. You need clean. To avoid that, install the filter. Where you think should be located the bracket for the filter, the coolant filter? Let me check that automotive engine, and I show to you where it should be located. The thermostat is located here, no? You remember? Yeah. We open here and the thermostat is here. And the hose enter here. You see that small hose in between the thermostat housing and the thermostat? Yeah. If I cut the hose and I insert the filter over there, I have the filter. There are small filters in line, like the fuel filters, like the yellow filter for fuel, similar to those, and you install that one. Okay, additives. What is the name of the additives? They are SCA, supplemental cooling additives. Supplemental cooling additives. There are 2 types, no? In pills or in liquid. Which one is more efficient? Both of them are the same. I prefer liquid, because the liquid no create formation of solids in the coolant. The pills they create sediments, but you can use both of them. there are filters with the pills included inside of the filter, and they are degrading when the coolant is passing, is moving. It's good, and you hear when you buy the filter, you hear the pills inside. Why the people in general, the service technicians, when the service technician receive the parts to do the service in an engine or generator, the service technician receive the oil, the motor oil, the quarters of or gallons of motor oil, receive the oil filters, receive fuel filters. How many fuel filters? The primary filters or water separator, Raker-Parker filters, and the secondary filters bolted on the bracket on the engine, both filters. Receive also air filters, receive also the valve to replace the valve, receive also the impeller and the gasket for the impeller of the raw water pump. This is part of the service in a typical marine engine. This is the typical service, no? And also receive the coolant filter. But the majority of the technicians, they replace all of the filters and oils, but the coolant filter never replace the coolant filter. Why? Because in some engines, they don't have valves in both sides. When you lose the filter, you have a lot of coolant on the bilge, and it's catastrophic. This is reason number one. But in some cases, the engine have the valves, but they don't want to remove the filter. It's because remove the filter is too difficult because it's pressurized. And you can use big Thor wrenches, and it's like a welded over there. I have a technique, it's simple. Let me explain something, guys. There are diesel engines that the filter is like me. It's a big filter, and you need to locate a hydraulic jack in the bottom of the filter, and you lose the filter, and you drop the filter, and you go with the filter and the hydraulic jack through the hatch, and with the crane, you lift the filters. With crane, yeah, it's heavy. In those cases, I recommend make a drill here, prepare buckets, make a drill here and a drill here, and you drain the coolant in a bucket. And prepare a transfer pump, electric transfer pump connected to your drill, and you pass in your buckets the coolant. Because in some cases, it's 2 buckets, the filter. Okay, when the filter lose the pressure, you can use the tools to remove the filter. Okay, but you need prepared condition. You need prepare the buckets, the transfer pump for oil or fuel or coolant. Service on engines is not an easy job. You need prepare. And also, if in this service is included the calibration of the valves, you need included the calibration of valves. Can you refresh quickly the process to calibrate the valves? Each piston to top the center at the end of compression. In that moment, what happened with the rocker arms? Are
tight,
loose,
both.
and you can calibrate with the feeler gauge. Now you rotate. The second piston. Okay, loose both of them, and you calibrate. And now you rotate other 180 degrees. Tan, 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 tan. This is the other inconvenience, guys. You remember the liner?
Yep.
You remember this O-ring here? What color is?
Green.
It's green. And what happened here? You have coolant. You remember that I explained that when you order the new liners, you need verify this length, you need verify this, and this.
And the interior.
And the interior, the bore. What happened if this thickness is less than the original?
It'll smooth.
This liner is moving like this. How many times per second? A lot. Excuse me, what happened in the boundary in between the coolant and the metal? It's created bubbles. What happened when the temperature of the coolant reached the maximum point with the diameter of those bubbles?
Blow.
Expand and suddenly explode. When the bubble explodes, what happened with this metal? Is eroded. And for pitting corrosion is perforated. And you have a leak of coolant entering in the oil. Good?